Welcome back to NATOR'S Game Picks, ladies and gentlemen. Week 12 recap. We had 13 matchups. I got 8 games right, 5 games wrong. The ones I got wrong: Thursday Night Football. The Browns beat the Steelers. I had the Steelers originally. My upset alert didn't go through. I thought the Bears were going to beat the Vikings. They lost by 1. The Titans beat the Texans. I had the Texans winning. And then also the Commanders. I had the Commanders winning. Cowboys beat the Commanders. And then we also had Monday Night Football with the chart with the horrible. I didn't mention that last week's video, but I don't really focus too much on the coaches because it's the players out there playing. But the Ravens took care of business. I got the score right for the Ravens. They had 30, but obviously the Chargers didn't have 34 as they lost this game. So that takes the overall record to 121-58. And let's go head over to a week 13 that has 16 NFL matchups. No teams on a bye week, and it's Thanksgiving. So let's see what that turducken is cooking up for us.
Here comes the...
Okay, all right, guys. Let's go ahead and get it going. We already know 2 teams that always play on Thanksgiving. Traditionally, the Lions and the Cowboys. Lions got the first matchup here, playing against the Bears team, coming off 2 last-second tough division losses already against the Packers 2 weeks ago and then the Bears last week. Caleb Williams has probably his best career game as a pro, throwing for over 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. The Vikings were just able to make the plays necessary late in overtime as they let the Bears score 11 unanswered in the final 3 to 2 minutes of the game. Now the Bears are going at Detroit, a team that's red hot. Struggling to generate pressures on defense, so this could bode well for a Bears offense, which is playing better under a new coordinator, and I think that they have opportunities to attack this defense, considering the pressure rate has been low for the Lions since the injury of Aiden Hutchinson, but also this secondary is one of the best in the league, as you got Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch. But they have some nicked up players. Alex Anzalone is out. Terrion Arnold was inactive last week, maybe inactive this week as well. Carlton Davis left the game last week with an injury. So this could be a game where the Bears can take advantage of the shorthand of the Lions, and it could very well be a chance for a potential upset here. But I do not think that's going to happen. I just think that the Lions are they just have too many weapons. So if the Bears score points, I think the Lions can match them as well. As I think this offensive line is the best offensive line in football. So it's going to be a tough task for the Bears to try to overcome this one. I think the Lions win at home 42-24. Moving on now, the Giants at the Cowboys. Giants got demolished by the Buccaneers last week. Cowboys with a nice, surprising win. And good to see them beat a division opponent. Now they got another one. Second time they play. So definitely not an easy feat to beat a team twice in the year, as we talk about a lot on this channel. I think the Cowboys at home here have not won a game at home all of 2024. This is the game they put that to rest. I mean, we know the Giants are a bad team, probably going to be vouching for that number 1 or number 2 overall pick, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't take care of business and take care of business handedly. So I think the Cowboys at home here, evaluating a lot of young players, their defense is getting healthy. It's going to be good to see, and I think the Giants. Other than pride in this game and wanting to beat the Cowboys, I don't think they stand much of a chance if this defense is force them to 3rd and longs and try to pin their ears down and pass rush as Tommy DeVito is their quarterback, the Giants quarterback. And the Cowboys went at home here, 34-17, giving them a 2-game win streak. Now the Thursday night game here, the Thanksgiving Thursday night is going to be my upset alert of the week. I actually have 2 upset alerts of the week, one for this Thursday matchup and then one later on Sunday we'll talk about. I usually don't do multiple, but this week I just felt like it was I just felt like it was just the time for it because there were so many interesting looking upsets to pick from. This one because I think the Packers at home have been very dominant. They're third in the NFC North, and they have an 8-3 record. That goes to show you how strong the NFC North is. But a Dolphins team that's won 3 straight games, 3 straight games here. And Tua Tagovailoa had his 4 touchdown outing. It's a very good game last week against the Patriots. He's actually never lost the Patriots in his career. Going into Lambeau Field here against somewhat of a short-handed Packers team, as Romeo Doubs left the game this past Sunday. And then they have some injuries. They have a few injuries up front on their O-line. So this could be a game where I think the Dolphins come in, they fly around here. I think their pass rush has started to get into it a little bit. Devon A-Chain is getting good matchups, and the offense is getting involving their receivers. Jalen Waddle and Jonnu Smith is a revelation for this Dolphins offense. I think it's going to be hard for the Packers to cover these players, and also I think Jair Alexander may be questionable for this game as well. So that's going to make it harder on these on the rest of the secondary to cover these playmakers like Tyreek Hill, Waddle, and Smith. So I think the Dolphins get the upset win of a Green Bay team who's obviously in the hunt for the playoffs, but so is the Dolphins in the AFC side. So I think they upset the Packers in Lambeau 28-23. Now we moving on. There's a Black Friday game. That's going to be a Friday night, Amazon Prime type of deal. Raiders at the Chiefs. Chiefs are at home. Second time they play the Raiders. The Raiders beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead Stadium last year. But I think much of that was to do the momentum of Antonio Pierce taking over as interim head coach. This year, I think Gardner Minshew tore his collarbone the last game, so they're going to start Aiden O'Connell. He started that game last year when he beat the Chiefs. But this is a game the Chiefs have probably circled and thought to themselves, let's go out here and handle business. Let's embarrass the Raiders. The Raiders are also, like the Giants, kind of going to be competing or not competing for that second overall pick. So a quarterback needed team, just like the Giants are. So I don't see much. I see the Chiefs taking care of business, although it could be a little sloppy and close in the first half. But I think the Chiefs take care of business here at home, and they win a score of 31-10. Sunday, the Sunday slate of games begins the first window. We have the Chargers at the Falcons. Falcons coming off of a bye week, and I think the Chargers here, unfortunate for them to have to play a team coming off the bye, and the Chargers coming off of a tough loss. Now they're going at a Falcons team that needs to get their act together. They've been embarrassed. They were embarrassed 2 weeks prior to their bye, and they're in an NFC South that the two teams behind them, the Saints and the Buccaneers, are slowly breathing down their necks. So I think this is the game the Falcons need to show that, hey, we can compete against a playoff caliber team in the Chargers, and we can show that we can play with that, because like they've had some rough outings the last couple of times they've played good opponents. So I think the Falcons here need to take advantage of this Chargers defense that just gave up over 200 rushing yards to the Ravens. I think the Falcons have a good rush attack. They're going to try to get to the edges, run the ball with Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, and that opens up the play action game with Kirk Cousins and this pass attack, and it's going to take advantage of a Chargers defense that also struggled against Lamar Jackson in the play action. So this could be the recipe for the Falcons. As for the Chargers, their receivers need to catch the ball, plain and simple. And J.K. Dobbins' injury last week against the Ravens was huge. I'm not sure what his status is for this game, so I think the Falcons take care of business at home of a score of 33-27. Moving on now, we got the Steelers at the Bengals. AFC North matchup here. Very tough, rugged. These tough teams always play each other close. This is the first matchup between the Steelers and the Bengals. Bengals are 4-7, looking to make a postseason push, but it has to start with a win against the Steelers here at home. If they fail to win this game, it's going to be very close to impossible for them to make a push for the wild card, unless other wild card contending teams just lose out. So I think the Bengals here, for that reason, I would favor them at home, but hardly. Russell Wilson had probably his worst game as a Steeler last week against the Browns defense in the snow. And this Bengals defense will play similar to that, but they have to finish the game. The Bengals defense have to finish the game. There are several games they've lost where the defense started good and just couldn't finish, or missing tackles and allowing big chunk plays. And the Steelers can get big chunk plays if you let them, as their defense is always their stronghold. Offensively, you can't give them anything extra, considering that they're typically more of a conservative style offense. But I think the Bengals, with Chase and Burrow leading the way, they have to rely on a run game to help them beat the Steelers here. Keep the offense off the field, keep their defense on, wear them down, run at them, and don't turn the ball over. That's going to be the Bengals' recipe for winning. I think they win of a score of 20-19. Texans at the Jaguars. This is a game I kind of wanted to put an upset alert around, but I don't know of Trevor Lawrence's status for this game. I think he's questionable. He returned to practice this week, and Mac Jones has been the fill-in for him. They're also coming off of a bye week, and the Texans are struggling. I think their offensive line has given up among the most pressures in the league, like one of the bottom worst teams in allowing pressures. Their running game was non-existent last week. As the games that they've had an advantage in, they've run the ball effectively. Putting the ball in CJ Stroud's hands too much this year has not really helped out the young quarterback as well. Injuries to Stephon Diggs has plagued them. Nico Collins has come back from injury, which is a big boost. And this defense has given up some big plays at times. There's opponents that they are able to shut down, but then there's teams they play that they just give up a lot of yards. This could be one of those games, and the Jaguars are at home. I do have the Texans winning, but this could be a game where I wouldn't be surprised if the Jaguars came out and beat the Texans, as the Texans go into their bye week next week. So they've played every week of the season so far. I know they're probably needing a break, but they need to get through that game right there, as the Colts are also. It's really only the Colts competing for the AFC South crown against the Texans, but they could be right behind them there, especially if they lose this game to the Jaguars. But I do have the Texans winning here at a score of 24-17. Cardinals at the Vikings. The Cardinals coming off a big loss, a tough loss against the Seahawks, where they failed to score an offensive touchdown. The Vikings almost lost the division game late, but they went on the road. Now they come back home after 2 games. I think this Vikings team. This Vikings team that finishes the year against the Lions, I think they have a good chance of being of winning out until they play the Lions, as they do have to play the Packers one more time. But that would be at home as well. And I think the Vikings here against the Cardinals team that's going to try to bounce back really hard. I think they match up well. I think they're going to try to run the ball against this team and come back with the play action game. Jordan Addison is balling out. Justin Jefferson's drawing double coverage. You go over the top to Addison, who's their wide receiver 2. Definitely living up to it after early in the year, kind of hinting at he wanted the ball more targets for this offense. So good job of the Kevin O'Connell feeding him the ball, and they just need to hold on to the rock. I know there's been some fumbles on the goal line out of this running game. They need to clean that up, as the Cardinals team can definitely take advantage of a turnover or two for them to be able to win this game. But if the Vikings don't commit a turnover, I see them winning here 29-20 at home over the Cardinals. Moving on now, we got the Colts at the Patriots. Patriots hosting the Colts. The Colts are going to be, they need to win this game to keep up with the Texans. I think, as I mentioned, if the Jaguars upset the Texans, I think the Colts look at that as a golden opportunity. This Patriots team does compete, but obviously they need a lot of help on this roster. They definitely got their quarterback of the future right. I think Drake May is very talented, very poised in the pocket. He's just taking a beating back there. He's getting sacked a lot. Doesn't get a lot of protection. He holds on to the rock. And this Colts defense can get after you, but also this Colts defense can get shredded if the Patriots find a way to run the ball and potentially develop a play action game. But I do think the Colts with Anthony Richardson win this game. I think they run the ball. They pass it when they need to, but they mainly try to run the ball against this Patriots team on the road here. And I think they get the win, a score of 24-23 in Foxborough. Seahawks at the Jets. The Seahawks had a big win last week. They've come off 2 back-to-back divisional wins, and are now going on the road. I think this favors them pretty well. Jets team coming off of a bye. I don't see much. They're still somewhat of a mess. Their play has declined over the last 4 to 5 weeks, although they started the season as one of the best defenses. I think the Seahawks take advantage of this. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba has himself another big game, as I think they're going to pair Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed with either Metcalf or Lockett. And Jigba gets that matchup in the slot, and that's where he's making his living. So I think Geno Smith will take advantage of that. I think Kenneth Walker is going to get a lot of carries. The Jets will have to lean on Breece Hall and Adams and Wilson. I'm not really sure how the target distribution is working there. It doesn't look like Garrett Wilson's getting any targets down the field. If the Jets want to beat the Seahawks, they need to take some shots down the field with their receivers. If they just keep throwing short passes, I don't see them doing much here. And I think the Seahawks win on the road here with a score of 25-21 over the Jets. Titans at the Buccaneers. This is my second upset alert of the week. I don't usually do this, but the reason I have this as another upset is because the Titans are going at the Commanders. Commanders another home game. They lost last week, got upset by Dallas. The Titans have a good defense as they beat the Texans. Got after CJ Stroud. I think they can get after Jaden Daniels here, as Cliff Kingsbury in this offense has kind of slowed down, kind of failing to convert third downs, not running the ball as well. They have Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler. When Eckler isn't really a receiving threat, then he's not really much of a running threat out the backfield, as he's more of a change of pace back. So I think the Commanders here at home will struggle against the Titans team that when they do not turn the ball over, they're actually a very solid team. I think their protection of Will Levis needs to be better. That needs to be a focus. I think Levis can play better, but I think him being paranoid of the pressure in the pocket is what forced him to commit turnovers. If they go on a little winning streak here, I can see them retaining Levis for one more season to build around him or build around this offense. Brian Callahan is a first-year coach. They're not going to let him go after 1 year. Obviously, that's not a smart idea. So I think the Titans are looking at that as let's finish the year strong. And maybe they want to try to beat the Texans again, as I think they play them again before the season ends. I'm not quite sure if they do, but who knows? Maybe they want to play spoiler to somebody. Maybe they spoil the Colts, spoil the Texans. I think they can do that. I think they can go on a win streak here if they beat the Commanders on the road. It'll be my second upset alert of the week. I think the Titans win with a score of 17-16. They have to limit the turnovers though, as the Commanders offense, as this Commanders team prior to the playing the Cowboys really don't turn the ball over much either, or doesn't turn the ball much at all. Buccaneers at the Panthers, the second window here, second slate of games coming in on the Sunday afternoon. Buccaneers at the Panthers, divisional matchup. I think the Panthers are playing so much more better football. Bryce Young definitely can't be dismissed as a bust just yet. I think you need to give him some time. I think this roster is believing in what they're doing, and they also have a new coach this year, David Canales, and I think he's starting to reach this team as their defense also, although still struggling, they're playing with more effort compared to what we saw in the first 6 weeks. So I think against the Bucs team, they're going to give them fits. They're at home. They want to spoil the Buccaneers. They don't want them to win the division or anything like that. Blood rivalry, I would say. But the Buccaneers, I think they got a lot going for them in this two-headed back monster. I think they have one of the best two-headed attacks out of their backfield in the league with Rashad White and Bucky Irving. And they have Mike Evans back healthy from a hamstring injury. That's going to be huge. I think they can take advantage of that against the Panthers here, especially when they get down the red zone, as I think the Panthers will clamp down on the key in on the Buccaneers rush attack. I think the Buccaneers do come out with the win here, but I can see it being close, ugly, a lot of penalties, and pretty physical game here all around. So I think the Buccaneers win on the road against Carolina, 30-26. Rams at the Saints. The Rams coming off of a tough loss against the Eagles. Gave up over close to 300 rushing yards. The Saints team here rushed for close to 300 yards against the Browns before 2 weeks ago, as they had a bye last week. I think the Saints at home here, another one of those teams in the NFC South, looking at the Falcons at the top, starting to kind of fiddle out unless they win, bounce back and beat the Chargers. I think both the Buccaneers and the Saints are looking at that like we're coming back and trying to take them down, as the Saints still have to play the Buccaneers, where if they can beat them, they'll be looking pretty decent in this NFC South standings. Although it's there could be the team that wins the NFC South could have a losing record. But I think the Saints here at home against the Rams have a good matchup. I think the Rams have struggled against teams that can get after the quarterback, as the Rams are pretty good at generating pressure. So Derek Carr needs to get the ball out of his hands quick. Maybe they utilize Taysom Hill more against this savvy Rams defense, which has played a lot better in their second year, as it's a very young core. But I think the Saints win at home here. I think they win with a score of 27-24. Saints are playing better under their interim coach, Dan Rizzi. So let's see how far that goes. And he might be their head coach next year. Eagles at the Ravens. Very good matchup here. I was almost going to say two Pennsylvania teams, but it's not. But the Eagles, these are the top two rushing offenses in the NFL. So this is going to be a barn burner, a great matchup. Both teams have great receiving weapons. Both defenses. The Eagles have a better defense, I would say, currently, as their secondary doesn't allow a lot of touchdowns or points. The Ravens defense do. They're inconsistent, but they are good. They have their games where they're not allowing a lot of yards or points, but they have their games where they allow a lot. This may be the game where they do. I think the team that has the fewest turnovers probably has the upper hand here, and probably the team that possesses the ball last will probably come out on top in this game. I think the Eagles have a good chance to go into Baltimore and win, but I think Baltimore, with Lamar Jackson at the helm and this coming off that big win against the Chargers, I think they beat the Eagles at home here, handing them only their third loss of the season, as the Ravens will be going into their bye next week. So I think this is a big game for them. It would be nice to go into the bye with a win against a great NFC opponent. And that'll extend Lamar Jackson's streak to still, I think it's 21 or 22-1 against the NFC, as he's only lost one game in his career to an NFC opponent. But this could be the game where he gets his second loss. I'm not saying that it's a foregone conclusion that the Ravens win here. The Eagles are a great team. So but I do think the Ravens win at home with a score of 37-34. Sunday night football as the 49ers at the Bills. 49ers got blown out by the Packers. Didn't have Brock Purdy active. Didn't have they didn't have Trent Williams, their left tackle, all-pro left tackle. This has been a rough year for the Niners. I don't see them coming into Buffalo and upsetting the Bills, as they're, I would say, the second best team in the NFL, probably the best team in the AFC in terms of just how well they play and how hard they are to beat, especially in Buffalo and late in the year, as they thrive in that cold weather stuff. And this team from Santa Clara going up to Buffalo in late November, in early December, I see the Bills taking care of business and handing the Niners their third straight loss. Even though with Brock Purdy back and maybe potentially even with Williams or Purdy back, I don't think they can beat the Bills here. I think the Bills are just hitting their stride and getting into their realizing that this is their year to grasp at that Super Bowl. So I think the Bills beat the 49ers at home here on Sunday Night Football, the score of 32-14. Advancing to the final game of Week 13, which has covered all NFL teams playing, no bye weeks as I mentioned, is the Browns at the Broncos. This is a good matchup. This is a nice little matchup here. The Browns coming off a nice big win against the division opponent, now going against the Broncos team that has won 3 in a row. Their rookie quarterback looks like he's surpassing Jaden Daniels into being that offensive rookie of the year winner. I think this is a big test for the Broncos, as the Browns are going to play like a desperate team. I think they still play for Kevin Stefanski. It might be his last year, may not be. It's hard to determine because they've had some bad games in terms of effort on defense. I don't think this is a game where they're going to have poor effort on defense. This is a game I think they can very much win against the Broncos team, who has a very good defense as well. But obviously the kind of a revenge game for one of the Browns receivers in Jerry Jeudy, who's had 2 back-to-back, who's stacked on some very good performances. I think he goes into Mile High, into Denver, and balls out. And whether he's matched up against Patrick Surtain or not, and this could be a situation where the Broncos need to run the ball well, keep the Browns off the field, keep their defense on, because if they get tired late in the game, maybe they'll succumb to that poor tackling effort like they had against the Saints. Although I wouldn't expect that, but that's what the Broncos may be the recipe to win this game. In case Bo Nix does somehow struggle a little bit, as he's been hot in the last 3 games. This may be the game where he kind of struggles, and it would be realistic to think that. I think the Broncos do have the upper hand and do beat the Browns at home, but I wouldn't be surprised if this one also could go the way of the Browns. So a lot of potential upset alerts. I already had 2, but there were some games out there. I'll mention them again: Bears, Lions potentially, Texans, Jaguars, and I mentioned and I also mentioned and this Monday night game. The other 2 I had as upsets are my upsets. But I do think the Broncos win at home against the Browns team, hungry to compete. I think the win of 23-20 over the Browns at home. That wraps up Week 13. Be sure to tune in next week, as that's the last week of the NFL season where teams have bye weeks. Week 13 is the Thanksgiving lineup. Thanksgiving games are late November 28th, and starting Sunday. There's a Black Friday game too, Chiefs Raiders. But starting Sunday, it's gonna be December 1st. So now we're getting into that deep playoff hunt, deep run. Like cold weather football. So it's gonna be fun to watch. It's gonna be the toughest teams that come out on top to make that playoff push, getting in there and solidifying their positions. So I'm excited for Week 13. I know you guys are too. Let me guys know what you guys think in the comments, and we'll see how it goes. Love you guys. Stay warm.